Hello, my name is Fred Chung, Developer Advocate at Google. This is the first of a two-part DevBytes series covering the Android Media Router framework in the support library. It has become increasingly common for users to stream movies or play music from their tablets or smartphones. In the living room, for instance, you may want to make use of those external speakers or Wi-Fi displays to enjoy your personal library of media content. Android offers a flexible media router framework for any apps to cast media content to supported external devices for playback. In this episode, we are going to talk about the media router, which is a mediation layer for apps to cast media content to supported devices. The paths to these devices are known as media routes. At a high level, the media router offers APIs to render the cast button, discover and select media routes, query the capabilities of the route, and control remote playback via an intent-based protocol. In the next episode, we're going to explore media route providers, which is a component that encapsulates the underlying communication between Android and external media devices. Device manufacturers can implement their own MLPs in order to publish themselves as media routes on Android. For example, Chromecast has implemented an MLP in the Google Cast SDK through which apps can integrate with. With this architecture, apps are essentially decoupled from underlying transport implementations of the media routes. We're going to look at some implementation details, but before doing that, I want to call out that the media router framework we are focusing here is in the support library, which means that it is backward compatible with Android 2.1 and above. And let's not mix it up with the media router in the Android framework. To initiate media routing, the user would click on the Cast button, which typically is placed on the action bar. Through the button, the user would be able to select a media route, disconnect from the route, control playback on the connected route, and so on. One way to add the Cast button in the action bar is to add an action provider manual item pointing to the class media route action provider. Then, in the manual initialization code, associate manual item action provider with a media route selector object. Route selector is basically a filter for media route capabilities. An app can specify categories of media route endpoints it can work with. The framework uses the selector to present only the appropriate media routes to the user. For example, if an app asks for video streaming capability, the system won't present audio-only media routes to the user. There are several predefined categories, including remote playback, audio streaming, and video streaming. Of course, custom ones can also be defined by the MLPs. Let's have a look at the initialization of the media router object, which maintains the overall state of media routing. Once you've gotten a reference to the singleton media router object, you want to register the media router callback, which provides events on media route changes, such as route selections, modifications, and volume changes. Have a look at the API reference for details. In this code snippet, the particular callback flag causes the system to immediately discover available media routes. Keep in mind that route discovery may involve network calls, and therefore you should be diligent in removing a callback when the route discovery is no longer needed in your app. I also want to point out that if you're using fragments, another option is to use media route discovery fragments, which gives you the same hooks for callback registration. Once a media route is selected by the user, the app can begin issuing remote playback controls to the endpoint. The invocations are asynchronous, which makes sense considering media endpoints may be remote. The media router framework defines an intent-based protocol for basic playback controls such as play, pause, or seek. You can find the definitions of the action and extra parameters in the media control intent class. This snippet illustrates the invocation of basic remote playback where first, it constructs an intent with proper action and category values as well as the URI of the media. It then checks if the selected route is capable of handling such request. It finally fires off the intent. The framework will report the results of the invocation via the asynchronous callback. While not included in this snippet, it is good practice to account for situations where remote playback is not possible, in which case your app should fall back to local playback. That's it for an overview of Media Router from an app casting perspective. Have a look at the docs and samples, and stay tuned for the episode on Media Route Provider. Thanks for watching and happy casting.